Good evening, everyone, and good afternoon, Professor Danthure Vikramasinghe. Professor Danthure Vikramasinghe is joining us from the UK with a time difference of 5.5 hours. Dear students, this is the final session of your Strategic Management Accounting course unit and final day of attending lectures with respect to management accounting was reading for the Accounting Specialization Degree Program at USA. Professor Danthure Vikramasinghe will speak to you about the future of management accounting, which will be of immense use to you for your postgraduate studies, as well as when carrying out work in the sphere of accounting in business organizations. Professor Danthure Vikramasinghe is the chair in management accounting at the Adam Smith Business School, University of Glasgow, UK. Professor Vikramasinghe is a globally renowned researcher, having published research papers in high-star ranking journals, and is the editor and is in the editorial board of some high-star ranking journals. For example, Accounting, Auditing, and Accountability Journal and Critical Perspectives on Accounting. He has many PhD students under him. He is very knowledgeable with over 40 years of experience, and his lectures are very interesting due to his remarkable sense of humor. I strongly advise you students to make maximum use of this golden opportunity. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Sanjeevani, for the generous introduction. I see lots of students are behind the black screen, maybe due to the technological difficulties. When I started teaching at the University of Rubuna, that was early 1982. Exactly 40 years ago, I had to teach in front of a blackboard with white chalk in the pre-internet era without any technology around the classroom. After 40 years today, with the renowned technology, still I can see lots of blackboards in front of me because students are not showing their faces and hairstyles. Thank you very much again for attending this. Yes, as Sanjeevani said, we are 5.5 hours behind you. It is about 1 o'clock now, just after the lunch. It is a very cold day in the winter now. In the morning today, it was -5 Celsius. Now just 1 Celsius is a huge improvement. So we are counting various things and manage our life, which is management accounting for me, including the counting of our temperature. I can move into this understanding slowly. Before that, I like to share the sad news of the demise of Dayananda Ambalangodage. It was a very shocking, seriously shocking news for me. Daya was one of my undergraduate students at Rubuna when I was a young lecturer. When I went to the UK in 1991, Daya was still one of my undergraduate students. After my PhD at Manchester, I heard that Daya actually was appointed as a lecturer at the University of Rubuna. Daya wanted to do some research papers with me over the last several months, particularly around the issues of Sri Lankan debt crisis. Sri Lankan debt crisis. We had couple of meetings, and Daya actually collected some material, including the material from parliamentary Hansards, but we couldn't actually go ahead with that in detail. Daya is not here now. It is sad news. I like to share this sad news with you today. Okay, as Sanjeevani said, I am at Glasgow. Glasgow is a very old medieval period university. This university, you can see some buildings in the background of the screen. This university was founded in 1451, even before the invention of double entry bookkeeping. And this university was home to father of economics, Adam Smith, hence our name of the business school, Adam Smith Business School. In Glasgow, mostly for final year students, we teach accounting mainly as a social science. We are in the Faculty of Social Sciences. Glasgow University is organized in terms of certain colleges, not faculties. So we are under the College of Social Sciences. In the UK, we don't have management faculties. Mostly best business schools are within the social science faculties or colleges of social sciences. I did my PhD at the University of Manchester, and also I worked there for many years, and we were under the Faculty of Social Sciences there. Because accounting is also a social science, management is also a social science. Hence, here in Glasgow, we teach accounting, particularly for final year students, fourth year students, as a social science. I try to explain this slowly throughout today. Right? Oh. I don't know why slides are not moving from my end now. I'll try to stop sharing and come back. Not moving from my end.
So shall I do that for you?
Now it's difficult. I don't know why this is happening. I'll try again. Is it moving for you?
Now it's moving, sir.
Yeah, okay. It's moving for me as well. Sorry about it. Okay, coming back to the rhythm. So I will try today, that is my approach to teaching, to convey the substance of the material I am trying to deliver and to direct you to learn on your own by doing certain things I am pinpointing and ensuring your learning by emphasizing the need of doing certain things in the end. So this is a kind of pedagogical teaching and learning approach I have actually developed to teach these students over the last 40 years. Here in Glasgow, we use this term ILOs, intended learning outcomes. At the end of this session today, and also after doing the things I'm going to tell you, you should be able to know about management accounting's change. And in relation to that, you should be able to articulate, talk about better the frontiers of underpinnings of such changes in management accounting. And by moving into a broader understanding of management accounting, you should be liberated, emancipated from the clutches of dominant and established views of management accounting, which is called functionalism. I'll come back to this later, but textbook material or professional jargons or globalized ideas such as ABC, balanced scorecards, these things would not be practically implemented as they are, would not be effective as per the opponents of these ideas, because management accounting has to be operated in a complex organizational, societal, cultural, and political context. Hence, understanding management accounting only in terms of procedures, methods, calculations, definitions, etc., will not be enough. Hence, you need to be emancipated to broaden up your understanding of management accounting into the arenas of social, cultural, political, historical underpinnings of accounting. So, if we are thinking management accounting from such a broad perspective, oh, by the way, to me, today, management accounting is strategic management accounting. We don't need to actually have the adjective strategic because everything is strategic now. Hence, strategic management accounting is the language of management accounting today. Okay, coming back. I don't know, when I'm in the physical classroom, I want to actually walk around and speak to students. I've been actually constrained by this movement today because I had to stand just in front of the camera. But I'm sure Tamila or Tamila, is that a girl or boy?
So boy,
Tamila or
Tamila. It's pronounced as Tamila.
Tamila, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
It's
sir.
very difficult for me to actually pronounce today's generation's names in Sri Lanka. Yeah, I'm coming from an old generation. Yeah, my days, we had Nimal, Kamal, Sunil, Ranjit, Kamala, Chandra, Shriyani, Hema, and so on. Nowadays, we don't hear such names from this generation. Kamila, yes? Kamila, nice to hear your voice. Hiruni is, I can understand that must be a girl. Hiruni. Some Hirunis were there in my time also. And Ruwansha or Ruwansha, is that a girl or a boy?
Sir, I'm Ruasha, a girl.
Ruwansha must be a girl, right? Ruwansha, very good. Nice to hear your voices. Hiruni, where are you? Hiruni, are you there?
Yeah, hello, sir.
Okay, Hiruni is good. Good to hear your voice. Perhaps I would jump onto you in between. You may engage with me on behalf of others in the class. Okay, can you look at this slide? A kind of unusual definition of accounting or unusual definition of management accounting. Management accounting can embrace everything, all those spatially and historically vary, not only calculations, but also calculative practices involving people, technologies, organizations, management ideas, cultural values, political interventions. Hence, it is a practice, not just set of calculations. Hence, accounting in general and management accounting in particular is a calculative practice. This calculative practice allows us to describe what is going on and to decide what needs to be done. And then we can act upon people, things, entities, processes, etc. Hence, management accounting is everywhere, not only within formally constituted, bounded organizations such as limited companies. No, management accounting today has been traveling in uncharted territories as well. Think about Facebook. Facebook accommodates your everyday social relations. When you are at the Facebook, you may click through various likes. Facebook collects millions of likes, and per every like, Facebook collects fees from advertisers. Then your social relation has now become a business, has now transformed into a marketplace where calculations happen, such as number of likes, such as amounts of advertisement income. Therefore, Facebook is also an accounting machine, a calculative machine. This is a formal organization, a platform organization, but also in a less formal, in a less constituted, in a less bounded entity, such as a village, such as a street, still people do calculations, engage in financial decisions, and make their lives, produce their lives. I will come back to that. That is also a place where accounting, management accounting happens. Hence, management accounting is all those spatially and historically from time to time varying calculative practices. Management accounting is a set of inscription. When you go to Sigiriya, you can see inscription on the Sigiriya rock. When you look at very archaeological sites in Sri Lanka, in Anuradhapura, in Polonnaruwa, you may see inscriptions. Accounting is also a form of inscription. It entails numbers, charts, graphs, tables, and such like. And these inscriptions can be mobile. A budget can be cascaded down to the entire organization, maybe across the globe. And these inscriptions are stable in terms of their meanings. You know what a budget is. You know what a balance scorecard is. They have established, institutionalized, unquestionable ideas. Hence, these inscriptions are stable. And also, these inscriptions can be combined with other things. For example, when you try to implement activity-based costing in an organization, you may do that by combining the activity analysis idea with total quality management idea, or business process re-engineering idea, or lean management idea, or manufacturing engineering ideas. Hence, accounting inscriptions are mobile, stable, and combinable. Why? Because of this mobility, because of this stability, because of this combinability, management accounting can take action at a distance. For example, top managers are sitting at a distance from operations. Maybe top managers would be sitting in their headquarters in London, and the operations could be happening somewhere in India. But using these inscriptions, which are mobile, stable, and combinable, headquarters managers can take action at a distance for controlling, governing, and accommodating the operations into the hands of top managers. Hence, management accounting manages through inscriptions. Management accounting governs the things and people, entities, processes, and individuals through inscriptions. So inscription idea is very important. However, we have a problem. we have a problem. These inscriptions, charts, tables, numbers, these inscriptions could be precise, could be very objective without subjective involvement, and come in with rigorous knowledge, such as balanced scorecard is about translating companies' goals and strategies into operational dimensions, rigorous knowledge. But we have some problems about this knowledge as well. The major issue is that this knowledge would not be perfectly, rightly, logically corresponding to any remote context. Because when the things are operating at a distance, these distant contexts, such as factories, such as communities, such as various divisions of the companies, these distant contexts would actually understand this knowledge differently. Why? Because they are living in a different cultural, institutional, political context. Their understanding could be conflictual with the knowledge coming from the head office. Hence, precise, objective, and rigorous knowledge of this inscription is questionable. Kamila, Hiruni, Tuansha, we need to think about this. In a sense, now we know accounting produces inscriptions. Accounting can be seen as inscriptions. Management accounting is a form of inscription. These inscriptions are actually useful despite the problem of distance. With these inscriptions, managers or even policymakers in the government learn the calculative context first. For example, nowadays, I see on Sri Lankan TV programs, lots of politicians, policymakers are talking about the economic crisis, current economic crisis. How? By referring to various macroeconomic calculations. These calculations are also accounting inscriptions. That is how we can go beyond the formal organization to see accounting, beyond the organization. Politicians, policymakers refer to calculative inscriptions, macroeconomic calculations about foreign exchange balances, about unemployment rates, and of course, about the inflation and its impact on everyday life of people, etc. So by using such calculations, managers, policymakers, customers, households, they all learn this calculative context, because everything, whatever we do, have a calculative form, have an inscription form. Hence, we can learn from calculations. We can learn from such inscriptions. Then accordingly, we make decisions. We take actions. We can't actually just define. Management accounting provides information for decision making and action. No, before that, the constituencies in the context, learn the calculative context by referring to the inscription. Then they make decisions. Then they take actions. But not exactly according to the numbers, but also by referring to other things, other qualitative aspects. Maybe the employees' expectations about everyday life can be considered in conjunction with the salary payments the company can pay. And finally, these inscriptions are also used to talk about all these things continuously on TV programs, on social media, on accepted other medias, through corridor talks, at meetings, over lunches, over coffees. We mobilize inscriptions. We use numbers to talk about everything. Hence, management accounting is such a broad, such a social and institutional practice. Okay. Hence, I don't know whether you have access to these papers. Oh, by the way, I was delighted to see that Daya was teaching in a research-informed fashion this course. In Glasgow, in British universities, research-intensive British universities, we call them Russell Group universities. They are research-intensive, world-class universities, including my own university. Their teaching philosophy is called research-informed teaching, meaning we use research publications, research findings, research developments in the classroom in order to combine the old knowledge with this emerging new knowledge. And sometimes some research papers are very classic papers, what we call seminal papers. The first paper here by Robson, one of my teachers at Manchester, is a classic seminal paper. And Matt Hall's paper is a very famous paper. So try to, if you can't actually find these papers, Tamila, I would actually send these papers to Sanjeevani. She would circulate these papers to you. So once they are at your hand, read lightly, not seriously, the following papers. In the first paper, you can understand from the first paper, you can understand that accounting is an inscription, acting upon people at a distance. And in the second paper, you can see how accounting is used in managerial work differently. For example, accounting information is used not only for formal decisions and formal meetings, but also it is used in informal meetings, informal conversations, informal gatherings, which can also be very effective and influential in the forming of management. So read these lightly. And as I said, I would direct you when teaching. Don't just rely on textbook definitions. Don't by heart them and remember them. Instead, be emancipated and try to develop your own version of definition. And keep that definition handy and use it whenever you want. Then you can actually understand that management accounting is also happening beyond the organization as well. I studied a rural village in the Kandy district for a research project. In that village, poor women was getting microfinance, and they were using a simple cash book to record their group-based, village-based microfinance receipts and payments. And that cash book was in the middle of village meetings of microfinance, and they talked about their receipts and payments, their struggles and possibilities, their lives and jobs, their enterprises and various everyday life trajectories around this cash book. Hence, cash book acted as a form of inscription. And also, this cash book indirectly governed the everyday life of these poor women. And these cash books were also used for managerial decisions on the part of bankers who provided microfinances into this village. Hence, I saw that this is also a site of inscription, a site of calculation, a site of calculative practice, a site of management accounting. These numbers were governing these people. Today, everything is governed by numbers, governed by inscriptions, along with various other things such as ideas, technologies, or finances, of course. Hence, be emancipated and try to develop your own ideas. Okay, Camilla, Hiruni, Ronsha, why we need your own version of such a definition of management accounting? Any idea? Any idea?
Sir, actually, as you mentioned, management accounting can be considered as a social science. So it means it is not a political neutral subject area. So management accounting is linked with the linked or working with the particular political, parallelly with the political, social, institutional, and technological aspects of the particular context or a particular country. So therefore, I think the textbook definition of management accounting, it depends on the political, economic, institutional structure of the that textbook writer's country or the instance which that person have faced. So I believe it is not a perfect definition. So as a young accountant, we should have our own definition to management accounting based on our political, economic, and institutional background, which we have seen or faced in our day-to-day practices. Sir. So that's basically what I think.
Yeah, gorgeous, wonderful. That's what I actually want you to think about. Management accounting must be defined by your own way, because management accounting is not only a neutral and numerical practice. It is also contingent upon the situation you are confronting. And as Tamila correctly, rightly, and articulatedly tells, management accounting is subject to, and management accounting operates in the socio-political, economic, and cultural context. Hence, functional mentality about the fact that textbook procedures, textbook methods can only be memorized, must only be memorized for everyday work. You have to get rid of that functional mentality. And sometimes some of our colleagues call it functional stupidity. So that functional mentality does not work. When you look at a newspaper, when you look at, when you watch a political program on the TV, on your TV, you can see to what extent numbers are implicated in their talks. If you take the numbers out from their talks, they are meaningless and they don't have a talk and they cannot talk. Hence, you can talk, you can articulate, you can describe, you can decide and take actions with numbers, but in the broader context, the socio-political, economic, and cultural. Okay, Hironi, I will come back to you in a bit. Coming back to management accounting's very, very happening. What I see is that management accounting is changing. So I published 3 books in the last several years. One was published in 2007, where we, with my colleague Chandana Alawatage, Javadanapura University product, we talked about management accounting change. And now we are rewriting this book to be published next year. And then we wrote another book very recently, Strategizing Management Accounting. These 2 books are the first of this kind in the world. Nobody has actually done such books before, because those textbook writers just actually relied upon their functional mentality. So beyond the functional mentality, we broaden our understanding of management accounting by talking about management accounting change, and by talking about management accounting is being strategized. And also we show, by writing this book, Handbook of Accounting and Development, we saw there management accounting in developing countries is operated in the context of development, the notion of development, the idea of development, or the World Bank's and IMF's idea of development, which is an invention by the World Bank and the IMF after the Second World War. So development for me is an accounting machine. It produces lots of transcriptions for people to describe, decide, and act upon. Hence, by writing this book, we show that development is a context in which management accounting also operates for development purposes, poverty alleviation purposes, project development purposes, etc. So management accounting is changing in that sense. How? From a narrow, inward-looking perspective to a very broader, forward-looking trajectory, not just as only a neutral numerical practice, but also, as Kamida rightly said, a social and institutional practice. Okay, shall we try to unpack these boxes gradually? From a narrow, inward-looking perspective, we are traveling in the management accounting understanding from that perspective. How? It was a static version of strategy for management accounting. You know, in practice, you must have heard lots of Sri Lankan organizations prepare strategic plans. One of my good friends, who was one of my batchmates at Javadinapura, as I don't know whether Sanjini said that, I am a product of Javadinapura University. I entered the University of Sri Lanka, Vidyodaya campus, and passed out from the University of Javadinapura. Yeah, during my time, President Jayawardena, J.R. Jayawardena, changed the names of universities. When I entered the university in 1977, there was only one university in Sri Lanka, and that was called University of Sri Lanka. And all the places were called Peradeniya, Colombo, Vidyodaya, Kalaniya. These places were called campuses. So I entered the University of Sri Lanka, Vidyodaya campus. During my time, the subject for strategic management was taught by the late Professor R.A. Pereira. And that subject was called business policy, not strategic management. In the early 1970s, there was no such a term called strategic management. Instead, we had the term business policy. Whatever the term it was, they had the notion of strategy. And even today, I see lots of consultants help organizations to do strategic plans for every university. I'm sure there should be a strategic plan. Lots of organizations, public sector organizations, private sector organizations, they prepare strategic plans, but they just actually prepare them for the sake of doing it. They put it on their drawers after preparing it. They don't have generally an operational mechanism, an effective process for them to translate their strategies onto everyday, mundane level, grassroots level operations. Hence, management accounting was located in such a static, immobile, confined version of strategy that entailed the narrow and inward-looking version of management accounting. So in this version, this static version of strategy where your strategic plan was not properly, effectively cascaded down to the operations. That static version of strategy, what did they do was that this static concept of strategy confined only to a strategic plan, only to a strategic plan, not to a kind of operational program. Hence, this strategy was systematically, institutionally detached from operations. But it was okay before 1970s. Why? You try to actually economize your processes through the concept of economies of scale, because you enjoyed the monopolistic power of those days. I'll come back to this monopolistic thing. Hence, strategy or strategic plan or accounting with or without strategy was only a language of top managers, people at the bottom, people at the shop floor, people in various operational divisions did not know that there is a strategy, that the top managers have a different language of management. Hence, management accounting itself was detached from this strategy. And as I said, it was perfectly resorted in business policy, which I also studied from Jayawardenepura when I was an undergraduate in the 1970s. Business policy is a top-level policy rather than a bit of implementation at least. Hence, management accounting did not actually benefit from any process of strategic planning. Hence, strategy was a ceremonial practice. Just you prepare strategies for the sake of doing it. I see the same today, even in big organization in Sri Lanka. Strategies are, or strategic plans are prepared for ceremonial purposes. If it is a ceremony, we actually don't know what that means is. For example, for Sinhala Alut Aurudda, we follow lots of rituals. Or when we go to a temple or a church, we follow lots of rituals. But exactly we don't question or we don't explore the meanings of these rituals. Strategic plans or even conventional budgets, top-down hierarchical conventional budgets, were actually prepared only for meaningless ceremonial purposes. So that is the narrow version of management accounting. And this narrow version of management accounting operated through a top-down rigid order for confining purposes. Remember this word, Biruni, confining purposes. Remember this word, confining purposes. Conventional management accounting rendered individuals and things within organizations or made individuals and things in organizations calculable, visible, knowledgeable, and governable. Why? All these things were considered as accommodatable, amenable, docile, obedient, effective, efficient, productive bodies. So that is what management accounting do. Management accounting used calculations in order to make people calculable. Your performance can be calculable. The things you do can be translated into numbers. And these numbers can be reported. Then these people will become visible for the managers. And then managers come to know what they do. And accordingly, managers govern these people. Hence, those people and things are very efficient, very productive. How can that be possible for management accounting? Because management accounting used certain what we call enclosure, confining principles, namely disciplining the space. Everybody in an organization has an office, has a place for them to actually work. They should not leave the office during the time. They should not leave the space during the work. And therefore, they have to be disciplined to be there. And also, everybody has been given a timetable. Hence, managers, through budgets, through performance measurements, control people's time. In that sense also, they are disciplined. And also, their mindsets. Oh, I am the accountant. I have these duties. I have a job description. I am being appointed. I need to be responsible. I need to do these things. So your mind is also disciplined. Michel Foucault, a French philosopher who died in the 1980s, called this kind of disciplinary practice as a panoptica. Panopticon prism is like this, as you see in this picture. In the middle of this picture, you can see a post. In this post, there were prison guards. All the time, the guards were watching around the prisoners who are in cells around. In the background, you can see many prison cells. Watchers in the middle guard them. When they go on and on, these prisoners come to know that what guards were watching, and they were watched by the guard all the time. Because in the middle, there is a panopticon, the watching place. Hence, prisoners become disciplined. They stay there. They have a space. They have a timetable. They are given a mindset as being prisoners. Hence, prison maintain disciplinary practices. We do the same with budgets. Budgets is just like a panopticon. All the operational people know that these budget targets are given. And through budget targets, top managers were looking at you. In other words, guards like top managers were watching you, whether you are being there, whether you are working to the timetable, whether you are being responsible. Hence, accounting, management accounting is just like a panopticon. So in this panoptica, in the past, management accounting is understood as a quantitative discipline, calculative discipline, numerical discipline. It manifests were very objective, very value-free social practice. Previously, people thought that management accounting practice is value-free, no cultural, no historical, no institutional, no economical aspects are mobilized in everyday use of accounting numbers. Even these numbers operated from a distance. But the reality is different. In remote controls where people operate, they are in different contexts, as Camilla also mentioned. You might be systematically decoupled from what top managers wanted to do. For example, in Sri Lanka, government policymakers or ministers wanted something, but the operational people, such as Ceylon Electricity Board, would actually operate differently in terms of their professional trajectories. Hence, there could be a decoupling effect between political and economic expectations of electricity service in Sri Lanka from what CEB does. Hence, quantitative discipline, considering accounting, management accounting, as a quantitative discipline is problematic. And most management accounting, the narrow view I mentioned, most management accounting was supporting mainly for stock inventory valuation. For example, we do cost calculations and we find the cost of production, and the cost of production will feed into financial reporting for regulatory compliance purposes. Hence, in the past, Johnson and Kaplan, two Harvard University professors, writing in the 1980s, said this: management accounting has been subservient to financial reporting without doing a good job for decision makers and controllers. Johnson and Kaplan published their book based on a case study finding in the famous automobile company in the US, General Motors. They studied General Motors in the 1980s, and they found that management accounting was irrelevant to managers' decisions. Instead, it was subservient to financial reporting. Hence, General Motors couldn't compete with Japanese counterparts such as Toyota, Honda, Nissan, where Japanese managers did completely different things in the name of management accounting, even since the late 1970s. Johnson and Kaplan published this book in 1987, entitling The Relevance Lost. The Relevance Lost. Google that book and try to actually smell the argument they are making. This management accounting is good only for monopolies, bureaucracies. When I was a little boy in Sri Lanka, I can remember, perhaps Hillary may remember, I know that Hillary is younger than me, Hillary may remember, almost all the cars on roads were black, only black. The idea was that manufacturers indirectly told the customers, we produce black cars. You just buy them. No any other option. And marketing people call them production orientation. Customers were not kings. Sri Lankan people say that customers were not the king. Because they enjoyed their monopolistic, oligopolistic, or duopolistic power. And also they maintained very rigid, top-down, hierarchical bureaucracies. These things emerged in the 19th century, soon after the Industrial Revolution in the West. And they invented the idea of mass production. Aim is to exploit economies of scale. The larger the scale, better the efficiency. And these organizations were then unresponsive, inflexible. They enjoyed the hierarchy. Hence, old-fashioned management accounting is good for monopolies and such bureaucracies. I am sure through my research, I know through my research in Sri Lanka, in many developing countries, even in Malaysia, there are such bureaucracies, unresponsive, inflexible, hierarchical bureaucracies, trying to use new ideas of management accounting. I had a PhD student, Sanjeevani, you may remember. She's from Malaysia, Julia. She studied balance scorecard in Malaysian telecom. Telecom was such a bureaucracy, hierarchical, bureaucratic, top-down order. They got McKinsey, and with the help of the government of Malaysia, they tried to implement balance scorecard in Malaysian telecom. But Malaysian balance scorecard project was not cascaded down to the hierarchy, because at that time, due to trade union agitations, the workers did not want to have another form of performance measurement, another form of management control. Hence, balance scorecard was a ceremonial practice only at the top management level. So in that sense, even though balance scorecard is coming from a new version of management accounting, when the organizations are very bureaucratic and with established hierarchical order, it is very difficult to cascade them down to operational level. Hence, management accounting has been changing with all these things. Can you remember, Iruni, now? Management accounting had a very narrow, inward-looking perspective with a static version of strategy through these top-down confining purposes into a narrow quantitative focus, being subservient to financial reporting, which is good for monopolies and bureaucracies. Remember that. Remember to appreciate. Remember to explore. Remember to understand to what extent Sri Lankan big organizations, be they private sector, be they public sector, have these characteristics, have these repercussions, have these organizational repercussions, where new strategic management accounting cannot be better implemented. Hence, with that mind, for your self-learning purposes, write a 500-word email, email to be sent to the management. Try to do that in the next week, showing why management accounting will not be useful if it is narrow and inward looking. So, one of the transferable skills, one of the important transferable skills that you need to profess is report writing, and specifically email writing. Because we in Glasgow University, we do everything by email. We send our exam papers through emails. We send our exam procedures by email. We don't have any kind of circulars, bylaws, regulations being circulated physically. Almost everything is by email. I bought a house. I never saw the lawyer. We did everything through emails. You can buy groceries. and you can buy a house, and you can buy a car by email. That is what is happening in the West. So therefore, this report must be clear, straightforward. For example, you may start very clearly, precisely, while I'm pleased to be a member of your team as a strategic analyst, I wish to report on my following preliminary observations of the company's strategic intent and its implication for management accounting practices. Semicolon. Colon. First is small paragraph, then second is small paragraph, and third is, and so on. Your preliminary observations of company's strategic intent. Perhaps one of the things would be that you saw that strategic plan the company has would play in only a ceremonial role. So if that was the case in a company, it is very hard for you to mobilize new ideas of management accounting, activity-based costing, balanced scorecard, beyond budgeting, open book accounting in supply chains, etc., etc. But management accounting is changing. Management accounting is changing from this narrow, inward-looking perspective to a very broad, forward-looking perspective. Okay, Hiruni, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you get the things I said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you feel about it? Were you asleep?
No, sir.
Okay. How did you feel about this? Did you see the slides well?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. Or did you see my hairstyle instead?
No, sir. I saw the slides.
Okay. Do you know that management accounting was now changing?
Yes, yes.
Very good. Yeah. Hiruni is saying yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, sir. Yeah. Lots of politicians are also doing the same in the parliament. Very good. Right. Management accounting is now changing. How? What kind of underpinnings are there? What kind of frontiers are there? One of the big bangs was the emergence and expansion of neoliberalism. I will come back to that. Then this neoliberalism directs us to circulate everything. I said management accounting played a confining role, making us docile, obedient, efficient, productive bodies. That is confining. Budgets confined us. Performance measurements confined us through enclosure principles. Now, with the neoliberalism, now things are being circulated instead. Things are going away around the world. Things means money, ideas, products, various transcriptions even being circulated around the world. That is what is happening. And this circulation, I will come back to that, is based on global discourses, advanced technologies, globalized mass customization as opposed to mass production. We will talk about these things. As a result, eventually, management accounting is being strategized. That is what we articulated in this book, Strategizing Management Accounting. And in this book, we have a subtitle. What is it? Liberal Origins and Neoliberal Trends. The narrow view of management accounting had a liberal origin in a political sense, political science sense. Now, management accounting is being extended in the name of strategic management. I don't like the term strategic management because when we say strategy or when we say strategic, it means it's a kind of static concept, immovable concept, ceremonial concept. Now, strategy is now being strategizing. Strategizing is a kind of everyday happening. I will tell you how it happens. Hence, management accounting is an everyday happening. We will try to unpack these things. Okay. Ruansha, are you with me?
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Are you sleeping in the evening now?
No, sir. We are coming. We were on our way from our internship, so not sleeping.
Very good. Are you using a mobile phone or a laptop to see me?
Right now, since I'm also traveling, I have logged in from my mobile phone.
Mobile phone, right? Okay. If as long as it is mobile, if you feel boring, you can also mobile. Yeah, you can walk here and there, eat something, and come back to see me. Okay.
Yes.
Russia in early 1980s, the world had a historical turning point. When the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher came to power in 1978, she saw that the economy in the UK was not doing well. And at that time, the economy followed the British economist ideas. British economist John Maynard Keynes' ideas. That economic model was called Keynesian model of development. Sri Lanka, all Commonwealth countries were also adopting the Keynesian development model. Margaret Thatcher saw that it was inefficient. Fiscal policy was ineffective, and the social distribution of the economy was unfair, and the growth of the economy was not sufficient. Then she wanted to follow an alternative economic and political model. That was neoliberalism. In Europe, there was a proponent of that idea that was Friedrich Hayek, an economic professor, worked at London School of Economics. And then on the other side of the Atlantic, Milton Friedman, the famous economist in the US. Margaret Thatcher followed them. And Margaret Thatcher was supported by then American President Ronald Reagan. That gave rise to the entire world neoliberalism, new form of capitalism. That neoliberal idea reproduced capitalism as one global capitalist network. And this capitalist network was orchestrated, was governed by two complementary ideas. One free market idea, which President J.R. Jayawardena also followed. Second thing is private property rights. Can you remember? In Sri Lanka, you can understand free market. Private property rights. Now, I'm sure, Ruwan Shah, you want to actually do this job better. Why? You want to get a good job. Why? You want to have a good salary. Why? You want to be more economical. Why? You want to actually buy a car, and you want to have a good house, and you want to have a luxurious life. So you are governed by that idea because you have the right, you have the freedom to do so, to do a good job, to get a better salary, to buy a car, whatever you want, to build a house according to your will. So you have that rights. And that is called, Ruwan Shah, private property rights. Neoliberalism produces this one global capitalist network through the operation of these two ideas, two complementary ideas, free market and private property. And this is now everything. It is unquestionable, self-evident, and total. Even universities are being neoliberalized. For example, Glasgow University, as a globally known world-class university, we need to maintain our global university ranking. We are one of the top 100 universities in the world. Top 100 universities in the world. Therefore, we all must maintain this status. For example, even though I am a professor, in a Sri Lankan term, a senior professor, because I'm old, every year I have to meet the dean of our faculty as a professor and show them with my reports, with my online reports, that I have published in top-ranked journals, which are okay for the university. I have taught my students through a research-informed fashion, and I supported my colleagues to be world-class academics, and I have made an impact on the world by giving keynotes, attending conferences, traveling around the world, etc., for which university supports us. So that means I am governed by this ranking order. Glasgow University is in the market of ranking. So in the market of ranking, we must every day perform ourselves in order to be competitive in the market. Hence, our performance measurement, my performance measurement, is to be judged, is to be considered, is to be maintained through the university management control mechanism. That is management accounting. I am a docile body in that regime of control. In this market economy, in this free market economy. But also I enjoy my property rights. I am being known, as Sanjeevani said, you can Google my name, Danture Vikramasinghe. I'm the only person in that name in the world of Google. And you can see what I've been doing around the world. My publications, my visibility, my engagements, etc. So I am enjoying my property rights. I have my rights to be improved. I have my rights to be globally visible. I have my rights to write whatever I want. I have my rights to publish whatever I want. And I'm using this free market context for me to live my life. So I am part of management accounting. That is why I said management accounting works not only within formally constituted, very bounded, very formal organizations, but management accounting acts upon every entity, every processes, and every individual. Hence, what is happening? Management accounting itself has been neoliberalized. How? Bringing the free market. Where is market now? Traditionally, we thought that market is outside the company. No, market is in front of you. Market is in front of your computer, in front of your computer screen, through maybe ERP software package. And that market is not only the computer screen, and the property rights ideology is not only on the computer screen, but also in your mindsets. Your minds are now being neoliberalized. Always you think how to be competitive against the others in the world, and how we can maximize, not shareholders' value, maximize our property rights, our individual property rights. Hence, calculations are used not only for action at a distance, but calculations are now used for instant actions. Not action at a distance, but instant actions in places and times. This neoliberalization happens through very important thing, circulation. The idea of circulation rather than confinement. Sanjeevani, do you give a break in between?
No, sir.
No. Right.
How long will you take, sir?
Now it is 2:44. That means I have spent about I might actually take another 25 minutes or so. Is that okay?
All right. By the students, is it okay?
Camilla, is that
Yes,
okay?
Yes, sir, it's okay.
Okay, very good. Okay. I would actually be concise. Okay. I said that we are now in an era of circulation. Everything is now being circulated. Capital, ideas, people in terms of various migration projects and institutions, calculations, budgets, balance scorecards, various forms of tables, charts, etc. Hence, the disciplinary perspective I mentioned is being recasted, remolded into a neoliberal form. And market logics is being unprecedentedly used to manage categories of population. Those days, populations were seen as a hierarchical bureaucracy. Now, we don't regard them because the boundaries of hierarchies are blurred, are being blurred because of global production, because of global supply chain. For example, most Apple products are produced in China, whereas the apples are designed in the US, and the West is a designing machine, and the East is a production factory. For example, China is producing to the entire world. So that means things are being circulated everywhere into one global place. Hence, management accounting is being a technology of government of population categories. That is called theoretically governmentality in management accounting. Finally, why? Why? For capital to be circulated globally. In Sri Lanka, nowadays, people are talking about restructuring of public enterprises. Why? Because we are now living in an era of circulation. Investors are being circulated, their capitals are being circulated, and in return, for capital accumulation purposes, profits are also being circulated. Therefore, we must understand the notion of restructuring in relation to this idea of circulation. Why circulation is possible? Because of three things. That is why management accounting is also being strategized. One thing is discourses. What are the discourses? Discourses are powerful ideas. Powerful ideas such as balance scorecards, IFRS, sustainability, microfinance, lean manufacturing, powerful ideas. They are being circulated. Total quality management, business process reengineering, sustainable development goals, they are discourses. Powerful, impactful, politically governable ideas. Their discourses are globalized. And in parallel with this, there is something else. That is advanced technologies. You name it. ERP, big data, data analytics, artificial intelligence, and such like. discourses can only be mobile, can only be combinable, and can only be useful because of these advanced technologies. And now we are living also in an era of not mass production, which was produced by in the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution. Now, we are now living in an era of mass customization. Different categories of customers ask for different functionalities of products. That is why Apple always produces different models with different functionalities. Say Apple 14 Pro, Apple 14 Pro Max, or just Apple 14. This is a kind of mass customization era. And to some extent, customers are now given the rights to decide what they want and also design what they want and to develop what they want and to deliver how they want. By doing that, you are now moving away from the idea of economies of scale into an alternative economic idea of economies of scope, because customers are now put in different categories of scopes for them to design, develop, deliver. 4Ds. That is why circulation happens. And this is possible because of this advanced technology. And for example, big data, we teach big data with management accounting. Now, management accountants' identity is being questioned, is being challenged, because big data is now being handled by data scientists, engineers, production managers, etc. My son is an engineer working in a car manufacturing company. Even though he studied engineering in the university, he uses big data as a manager, as a new form of management accountant to inform the management what needs to be done. Through big data, the decision-making can be expedited, controls can be more effective, inventory management can be improved, customer service can be improved, and pricing making can be defined. For example, in decision making, you can capture transactions before their official account recording, because things are happening through online and things are happening through various technologies. For example, loan decisions can be processed referring to big databases, credit tracking, criminal records, video images of physical assets, and exploring asset histories of the person who wants to actually get a bank loan. As a result, decisions can be expedited with the use of and by referring to big data. And for example, controls can be transformed effectively into mundane governance. Mundane governance. Maybe that means everyday governance. I give a lecture for students in my final year class, how accounting can inform us for mundane governance. It's a big session. Now, what is that? Managers can now use not only structured information, coming from the organization itself, but also unstructured information coming from big data, such as the vehicle uses through GPS, you can judge and control. One of my PhD students from China, she is from China. She studied Uber-like vehicles, taxis in China, which are called Didis in China. She spent 6 months in those taxis in China as a taxi rider to understand how these taxi drivers were being controlled at mundane level through the technology of platform organization, Uber-like platform organization. So everything can be now possible. Your behavior can be judged virtually, online, looking at time on the internet, sites visited, etc. And as a customer, when I am on the phone with the company on the other side, they can actually capture my voice pattern and analyze what customer I am. So they gather and store data, and for subsequent purposes, they find different patterns for categorize customers, for serving the products and services differently. Management performance would be effective through this. Data can be used, not only the ones you actually generate from the company, but for other performance measurements, collected for other performance measurements. For example, lots of companies are now tending to use social media feeds about customers, about employees, in order to measure the performance of customers, performance of employees. And this is real time, sometimes within organization as well. And this is real time beyond organization through artificial intelligence and big data assigned to that. When I was a young undergraduate, we calculated inventory requirements by hand using analogic methods. Now it is virtual, and inventory movements are virtually captured through barcodes, through RFIDs, and they can actually manage inventories on a real-time basis. Hence, you don't need to understand how to calculate FIFO, LIFO, etc., because things are now real-time and concurrently happening. And for inventory management purposes, with the big data and with the use of advanced technologies, just-in-time management system, the Japanese idea, can only now be practically possible. And customer service can be improved because you collect and digitize broad set of customer data through emails and through QR codes and through various telephone recordings, and by understanding different categories of customers in terms of how they behave. Customers' behavior can now be modeled based on big data. And pricing can be accordingly refined. And continuously, pricing can be updated. Yeah. Ceylon Electricity Board instead, in the last 20 years, they didn't actually refine any pricing according to their cost. This is sad, and this needs to be a revisited issue. And also, this pricing can be refined because you have more and more unprecedented amount of data is being collected through big data, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is now moving from a kind of reactive mode to a kind of self-aware mode, like a person mode is happening now in the future. Hence, pricing, which is the door for competition, pricing, which is the door for competition, can be more refined because competitiveness is the mantra for a company to be more developing, more sustainable in the future. Competitiveness mantra must be actually exercised by refining pricing with the help of big data. So you can read all these things, at least by reading this paper published in 2014 by Bhimani and Wilcox. If this paper is not available, Tuansha, I will send it to your teacher.
Okay.
Thinking about this, write a 500-word report to convince the management of a publicly owned manufacturing company where there was a subtle resistance for technological advancement, and emphasize the cost and benefit of the use of big data, for example, and artificial intelligence, for example. There are various forms of artificial intelligence which are moving now, as I said, beginning from reacting form of artificial intelligence and enhanced form of artificial intelligence into a self-aware of artificial intelligence. And as a result, and it is this broader moving context, management accounting is being strategized. And therefore, management accounting is now, we call in our book, biopolitical accounting. Because organizational performance is linked to population categories outside the organization. And management accounting reveals neoliberal markets in terms of neoliberal population categories. And macro political and economic dynamics are becoming part of management accounting analysis. Today, accumulation of capital, therefore, happening through circulation. Hence, future management accountant should not only think about the organizational effectiveness or efficiency, but to understand how external connections can be enhanced through the era of circulation, rather than confining and disciplining people, things, processes through the enclosure principles I mentioned. Hence, external and internal connections must be reconsidered in two forms. One, you need to envisage external connections, then only you can do circulations. And also at the same time, You need to envisage internal reconfiguration of the organization structure, of the organization system, of the organization process, enabling neoliberal external connections materialize, circulated. These two things are interconnected. So you need to revamp these connections now, in which management accounting will be strategizing. External connections can be possible by advancing, by exploring new branches, new ideas, new areas of management accounting. Strategic management accounting, not as a standalone idea, but along with that, risk management, new public management in the public sector, governance, not only corporate governance, but also governance in a political sense, green accounting, sustainable accounting, development accounting I mentioned earlier, for which we wrote a book. And the most important thing is the last one, and so on. There can be much more. There can be much more which will extended, refined, reformulated, recasted the external connections for circulation purposes. And this is happening now in the world. Internal configurations through these ideas. They are globalized discourses, flexible manufacturing, flexible organization, continuous performance control and monitoring, and also within organizations, everybody must be reconstructed as entrepreneurial self, thanks to private property rights. But this is a struggle. This is a struggle for you to confront in the future. This entails a tripartite struggle. You need to strategize the market by bringing the market onto the computer screen. You need to strategize the process or the factory, maybe by unprecedentedly using the ideas of ABC and balance scorecards. And you need to strategize the hierarchy by making responsive, flexible, lateral, and what we wrote in our first book, post-bureaucratic. That is only the possibility we have to produce the notion of strategizing management accounting. So can you recap what I said? With the emergence of neoliberalism through the forces of circulation, based on global discourses, advanced technologies at globalized mass circulation, management accounting is being strategized despite those tripartite struggles. In the end, read the following 3 papers where I was also an author. Very attentively read them. If you can't find them, please ask me. And by reading these papers, write an academic essay. When you read these journals themselves, you can find the academic language, the nature of academic language. So write an academic essay of 1,000 words, excluding the list of references, focusing on the question of how and why management accounting is being at a margin, Because historically, accounting at various points of time was at margins, and being at margins, management accounting or accounting expanded its scope, expanded its territorial place. Now we are, as management accountants, are at the margin. And we are trying to circulate the rhetoric of governance under neoliberalism into uncharted territories through supply chains, through microfinance, through Facebook, through various social medias. We are circulating the rhetoric of governance, the idea of controls and management differently. So try to think of, you can understand these things if you read these papers only with a greater attention. So management accounting is strategized, accommodating multiple issues, deploying variety of disciplines. To understand management accounting today, you need the understanding of politics, sociology, anthropology, history, engineering, computer science, etc. So I'll give you homework for you to be more emancipated without being perfectly neo-colonized nowadays with these textbook ideas. You must empower yourself as individuals and groups to expand your freedoms and to enhance your local capacities, to be able to manage and name the world in your own words. Hence, look at this diagram. Chandan and I are now doing a paper. The paper's title is Teaching Management as a Social Science. So we have used this diagram in the paper. So look at this diagram. Look at this second paragraph on this slide. Look at the diagram and prepare 12 sites, emphasizing the nature of, emphasizing the complexity of future management accounting. Kamila, Hiruni, Ruansha, you may present this at a job placement for a job placement purpose very soon. So we had these IL laws, know about management accounting change, to articulate the frontiers of such changes and the ways in which you can be emancipated from functional orientation. So good luck. If you want to contact me, just Google me or just email me, or you can click on this link, the last thing, you can find me in detail. Thank you very much.
So a big thank you to you for taking time off your busy schedule to share your knowledge and experience with the prospective graduate accounting professionals of USA. Now it is the time for questions. If you do not want to voice your questions, you can even type your questions.